Hi, it's Jenny from Mummy Mishaps. It's been a while since I've done a vlog, and the reason I'm doing this one is because I've been tagged by the lovely Carolyn over at Mummy Alarm in the baby name tag. Now, if you're not aware of this, it's a tag that's been doing the rounds, all based around baby names. I'm going to list in the comments box below all the questions that I was asked if you want to take part, and then obviously let me know and I'll come along and read what you have to say. So baby names. So I remember that when I was pregnant with both my two, myself and their dad wrote a list of names, and we didn't really agree on any of them. In fact, with Burton, we didn't know what we were having, and the only name that we agreed on was Jack. But then we decided a few months before he was due that Jack was too a popular name back then, because that was like top of the lists back in sort of 2009. And we didn't want him going to school and, you know, there'd been too many Jacks. So we decided on the name Burton after we watched a TV show called The New Adventures of Old Christine, which is actually very funny. If you've never watched it before, I recommend it. And the name Burton was a character in it, and we really loved that name. And then from then on in, it's Burton. It is my favourite boy's name because it's very different, and we really love it. And then obviously when I was pregnant with Jensen, again, we didn't know that whether we were having a boy or a girl. Again, we tried writing out our list, but we didn't really agree. We did agree if it was a girl. I always wanted Scarlett, and John wanted Isabel. So I think we would probably ended up going with Isabel, even though there are quite a few Isabels at school. And for boys, he said Jensen all along. I thought that was a bit of a cliche, given that he loved Formula One and also that my name is Jen. And therefore, if it was a boy, you know, it sounded like Jen's son. But in the end, once he was born, I just looked at John and said, right, let's just call him Jensen, and that's how those names were created. But before then, we did scour through loads of baby name lists, especially John. He really enjoyed finding out all the meanings of the names, whereas I just liked to name based on how it sounded. But anyway, that's 2 minutes 20 odd seconds into this, and I haven't even started the questions. So let me tell you what the questions are, and I'll read you out my answers. So the first question in the baby tag is, what is your favourite boy and girl's names from the top UK names list from 2015? So I've had a look through the list, and my favourites, and I have to be honest, there are quite a lot of favourites, I've had to narrow it down, are Scarlett, Isabel, Harper, Molly, Beatrice, Summer and Sophie. And then the next question is, what is your favourite boy's name? I think that's part of question one, sorry. So it's favourite boys and girls' names. So my favourite boys' names are Jack, Joshua, Jensen and Noah. And then number 2 is, what is your least favourite boys and girls' names from that same list? So I've had a look through, and apologies if anyone watching this has a child called these names. It's not anything personal. So I've gone with, for girls, Lola, Ivy, Zara. I did find it bizarre that as I was going through the list, there were various different spellings that still made it in. Like there were 2 ways of spelling Darcy, and there were 2 ways of spelling Millie. I would have thought that should have counted as just the one entry, but apparently it doesn't. And then for boys, I've written down Mason, Theodore and Teddy, just because Mason reminds me of a boy at school called Kevin Mason. Theodore I just think would end up being shortened to Theo, so why bother with Theodore? And Teddy because it just makes me think of a teddy bear. Okay, so number 3 is, if I had twins, what would I name them? So first of all, if I was to have 2 girls, what would I call them? So I quite like names, I think, that kind of go together. Like, for example, 2 floral names, so maybe Poppy and Daisy. 2 names that I think are quite classic are something like maybe Lucy and Sophie, or I could be a bit different and go for 2 names based on seasons, and that would be summer and autumn. If I had 2 boys, then I quite like the idea of Jackson and Harrison, because actually both those names did come up when I was pregnant with Burton, because John and I both like those names, and then obviously they could both be shortened to Jack and Harry. And then obviously I could go with Burton and Jensen, seeing as though that's what I've ended up calling my own 2 boys now. And then it said, if you had a boy and a girl, what would you call them? So I've gone for my 2 favourite names, and that would be Burton and Scarlett. The next question is question number 4. If I could change my name to anything, what would it be? Well, I wouldn't change it. I really like the name Jenny. I've had it all my life. I really like it. Some people call me Jenny, some people call me Jen. I have been called Jennifer, and then I have to tell them that my name isn't Jennifer. I was in fact christened Jenny. In fact, I was actually christened Jenny Emma, but apparently not long after I was christened, the Emma got dropped and it is just my second name. But apparently my official name to start with was Jenny Emma. Okay, question number 5 is I have 4 children, all of the same sex. I have to choose 4 names, all starting with the first letter or initial the same. So I've gone for girls, and I've gone for Scarlett, Summer, Sophie and Sally. Okay, so question number 6 is, what is my favourite animal inspired name? Well, I didn't really know there was such a thing, but having had a little Google, I mean, obviously there's someone like Jamie Oliver that's called his son Bear. That's quite cute. And Raven, I know, is quite popular, but that's more of a bird. So in the end, I've gone for something a bit traditional because I quite like it, and that's Tabitha, and that actually means gazelle, which I never knew. Question number 7 is, what's my favourite colour inspired name? Well, that's obvious, that would be Scarlet. And then question number 8 is, what are my top 3 favourite boys' names? So I've gone for Burton, Joshua and Jensen. And question number 9 is, what are my top 3 favourite girls' names? I've gone with Scarlett, Molly and Summer. And then question number 10 is, what is my favourite celebrity baby name? I have to say Harper. I really like the name Harper, and if I didn't like Scarlett and the other names I picked out so much, Harper would possibly feature there. I think it's a really nice classic name. Okay, so number 11 is, what is my ultimate guilty pleasure name? I don't really understand what that really means, but I've gone for names that I guess are maybe a little bit different. And so for me, for a boy, I quite like the name Cole. That comes from watching The Affair on Sky Atlantic. Pacey, that used to be in Dawson's Creek, that's his character, Cole. I quite like that. And I also quite like the name Hero. Having watched Big Hero 6, I do actually quite like the name Hero. So possibly, if I had my time again, Hero or Cole could feature as a boy's name for one of my boys. And for a girl, I really like the name Trinity. Again, that's probably from The Matrix. And I also like Autumn, because that's a bit different. And then question number 12 is, what are my most hated names? Well, I don't really hate any specific name. I think that's a bit harsh. However, I do roll my eyes at things that are named after sort of bizarre things, almost like people want to be so different that they try and think, oh, what can I name my child after? So again, apologies if anyone watching here has a child called Mercedes or Chardonnay or maybe Disney. Yeah, I don't really see the point in that. I just think, you know, yeah, they're all right, but I just think people have done it because they want to be that little bit different. And then I went through that list of the boys' names in 2015, and I have to say, I don't really like some of the names like Rory, Luca, and I guess Collins, but that's a bit of an old name. You don't hear many Collins anymore anyway. I don't hate those names, but I just think I wouldn't want to call my children those names. And then question number 13 is, choose a baby name based on a food or a drink. So I won't be picking Chardonnay, let's say that. So luckily, I didn't know this, but Hero is actually means sandwich, so that's lucky. And I do like the name Honey for a girl. In fact, when I was pregnant with Jensen, I did actually write down Honey Bee, Bee being the middle name, which would go back to possibly an animal theme. I thought that was quite cute, Honey Bee, but yeah, we never had a girl, and I don't expect that would have gone down well with John. Question 14 is, choose a baby name based on a season. Well, I've said it already, I really like the name Summer, and I do actually quite like Autumn. Autumn is my favourite season of the year. So I'm not sure which of those two I would go with if push came to shove, because I've always quite liked summer, but quite liking autumn. So yeah, they're my two favourites. And then number 15 is choose a baby name from a movie. Well, funnily enough, Scarlett, which has been my favourite girl's name since I can remember, was all because of my favourite heroine character from the film Gone with the Wind, Scarlett O'Hara. Beautiful, beautiful Vivian Leigh in that film. I just always wanted to be her. If I could play a role in a movie, that would be the one. I think she's stunning, and I really love her character, all sort of gutsy and just getting it wrong so many times with everything. And then for a boy, I've always liked the name Josh because of the film Big with Tom Hanks. That was always my a name I wanted to call a boy. But John didn't agree. He didn't like the name Josh, and it is quite a popular name. And then obviously I mentioned before that Hero I quite like from Big Hero 6, and I do quite like Trinity from The Matrix. And then finally, I've got to choose a name that's already in my family. I was having a think about this, and I quite like Alice. Now, Alice is the name of my cousin, who, because it's my uncle's daughter. I think she's 4 years old, but it also, I believe, it's got a link to my dad's mum. Although she calls herself Sue, I believe that Alice possibly is her proper name, but she just likes calling, I think she's always been known as Sue, but I'm not absolutely sure about that, but I think that's how it goes. So yeah, so that's all the questions, all 16 questions in the baby tag. I guess now it's up to me to tag somebody in it. So I'm going to tag Kirsty from Kirsty Uninterrupted, and I'm also going to nominate the lovely Becky Goddard. And if I have to tag another person, I'm going to go with Jennifer Jane. I hope they'll join in and help carry on passing this tag around. And thanks very much for listening to my waffle, and thanks a lot.